Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Marcus, Dev Relations at Edge and Node, and welcome to another episode of Graph Builder's Office Hours. I believe this is episode 64 right now, if I'm not mistaken. And today we have the CTO of Pinax, Denis, here today. And we're going to be going over what Pinax has been working on in these past few months. So how's it going, Denis? How's your day going?
Hey, Marcus, thank you for having me. Day is going good.
Where in the world are you?
Normally, I would be in Canada, but right now visiting family, and I'm currently in Belgium right now, so on the Europe side.
I was very impressed by Belgium there was an ETH Global event there this last year. Last few months ago, actually.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that country. I've never been there before, and the people were all so kind. It was
For sure.
It was really, really lovely. So hope you're enjoying your time out there.
I am. Thank you.
That's great. So in terms of announcements for today, there's always, I want to keep on reminding people that Builders DAO is out there and ready to build subgraphs and substreams for you. If you haven't been to the website, buildersdao.tech, go to buildersdao.tech. And if you would like to have a subgraph, substream, or a substreams powered subgraph built to your custom specifications, or you'd like to simply just connect with a community that's highly dedicated to accelerating learning about building subgraphs and substreams, they are great to chat with. So hop in there. And then also, of course, if you ever wanted to chat with any other subgraphs and substreams builders who are active in the community, they're also, of course, in the Graph Discord. So go ahead and check out buildersdao.tech. And then also Graph Discord, just get involved in the community. So with that being said, announcements are done. Denis, what do we have to go over today? I'm curious what the topic is for today's Graph Builder's Office Hour.
Yeah, the topic is we've got to present a product that we've been working on. Maybe I could start sharing. And it's called Datasets on the Graph. In particular, we're going to also work with Snowflake. So there's a sort of Snowflake integration. So yeah, that's what we're going to go over today.
Awesome. Well, I'll step off stage and then I'll let you go ahead and present. As there's questions coming in, I'll just pop in, and it's all right if you handle those questions in real time, and then I'll just pop back out. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
Awesome.
Cool. So this is just the agenda. We're going to kind of talk about what the problem we're trying to solve, how we're solving it, how users are consuming data sets, a little bit about the MVP architecture, sort of the data pipeline, how we got to integrate with gateways, and then we're going to do a demo on Snowflake and talk about our future plans. So what we are trying to solve, blockchain data generates a lot of data. So it's a lot of data to manage. So that's one of the problems, is the volume, the size of these blockchains are extremely big. The extraction is actually quite complex, especially if you're trying to get detailed interaction from the RPC nodes. If you're doing simple transaction logs, maybe that's kind of quite easy. But if you're trying to get more rich data from RPC nodes, you need custom instrumentation. And also the tools. The tools are not really built for extraction. So analysts are familiar with more traditional tools, like in the SQL space. And also it comes to scalability. There's a lot of blockchains out there. And the more blockchains you add, it becomes a sort of operational burden. And it also is very difficult to download large volumes of data. So you would like to have a data store and only query the data that you need. So this is much difficult once you start hosting lots of data at scale. How we are solving it is we are using two technologies called Firehose and Substreams, which will be services on the graph. We initially defined the block schemas. So EVM, that supports all the EVM-based chains, Solana, Bitcoin. And then once we have defined a schema that we will use to export into Parquet files, those are kind of mini databases, but as a flat file, host it on AWS S3, or it could be also your own S3 bucket. We handle also authentication, usage, all the billing for the S3 usage. There's also a concept called the request or pay that Amazon has, or we can also have billing on our own side as well. Now, having only data on an S3 bucket is if you want to access that raw data, but normally users would want to connect to a hosted managed database. So we also, additionally, on top of the S3 bucket, we also host that data onto Snowflake Marketplace as a listing, and anybody can access also the data available on Snowflake or the raw data on S3. And then how would you consume that data? So again, you can either connect directly to the S3 bucket, load that data into your database using two different techniques, external table, or just copy the data directly with copy into. This supports, lots of different databases, but this is a small list, but Snowflake, AWS Athena, ClickHouse, Google BigQuery, they all support those techniques. You could either just read those files directly and not even load it into your database and read each file individually using programming languages. There's Polars and Pandas. Those are the top two Python libraries that you can use, and also Rust libraries. Or because we manage to load the data onto Snowflake, you can perform SQL queries directly on the managed databases using Snowflake. So a little bit about the architecture, the sort of data pipeline. Again, we talked about these raw blocks that are hosted by Firehose. So if ever we host a blockchain for datasets, we need to have Firehose instrumentation. That allows us to have a standard block type that we pipe through substreams, define the table schema, and that would be defining the blocks, the transaction, traces, logs, everything that we want to extract as a table into a Parquet file. Once the data is extracted from substreams, we can host it on S3 as a Parquet file. And then once that is hosted, we can either pipe that directly to all the different data consumers. Those are usually cloud databases. Pick your SQL compute engine, or just read it directly using your Python libraries. And then there's two different gateway approaches that we can deal with this. Either we ask for billing directly to the S3 bucket. So this would be the concept of request pair. You would be billing for how many bytes you read from the S3 storage, or the marketplace listing for Snowflake. You would request listing access to the data sets that are already managed. You don't have to copy over any data. You can start performing SQL queries directly on that. So there's two different types of gateways. Now, of course, the Snowflake marketplace depends on the S3 to funnel new data sources. So that's the first one is the critical piece, is having the S3 bucket. And then after we expose that data to Snowflake as well. All right, I think we're going to dive into demo, unless Marcus, if you've got some questions from the audience. I'm not too sure if...
No, keep on going. You've got a good audience right now. Yeah, no questions just yet. You're on a good flow.
Sounds good. So I'll switch over. All right, we're going to look at... So here in Snowflake, they've got this concept of a marketplace. It's quite interesting. If you just search, let's say, Ethereum, there's actually many different providers, some that you will know. Dune, for example. There's a few providers that provide, let's call it Ethereum blockchain data, or also Base and all sorts of different blockchains. We have one right now with a 30-day trial. So you can download you can kind of get the listing, you can try out, you can do queries around it. It's free to try. After 30 days, there's a sort of a data access listing fee. This will include blocks, transaction, traces, logs, storage changes, and code changes. And we'll keep adding more tables as we build out more. You can also just preview the data, which is quite handy. You can see the structure. So let's say we're looking at the blocks, number, hashes. Let's go look at, let's say, logs. So here you've got your transaction hash. Let's go see your contract address, your topic 0, topic 1, topic 2 and 3. And so you have a preview directly. You can also see the schema of the columns. So this is a date, this is a number, this is a timestamp. So if you want to get familiar with the data set, you can kind of preview the data beforehand. What else? Also, Snowflake hosts on multiple regions. So right now we have actually 42 regions that you can download. The reason for multiple cloud regions is that the data is replicated on multiple regions. That way, if your data is in a specific region, this data will be replicated to your region to have quick access. So here again, we have the data dictionaries. You can preview all the different tables. And we also provide some examples that we'll kind of go through. So we've got some SQL queries that you can do, which is, let's say you want to look up ERC20 token transfers, active users, the top contracts. So we'll go dive into those demos. I'll share another tab. So here in Snowflake, you have this concept of notebooks. So these are Python notebooks. You can create one. You can either connect it to a GitHub repo. Here, I'm just setting up the environment, like the Python environment. And for daily active users, so I want to, let's say, compute daily active users using transactions and the from field. So here is a SQL statement. I'm going to take the block date, and I'm going to count how many distinct users are from the transaction. And we're going to do a date range, and we only want to search by, let's say, all of 2023, and we're going to group by and order by. So here it's going to extract and get that data, organize it by date, and we're going to now have a sum of all the unique from of the transactions, which will count as the daily active users. So here we've got 2023, January 1st. So we've got about a 200,000, 300,000. Now, these are just a tabular data, but you can also preview it as a chart. So here, we've now created another chart using pandas, and now we've got the same visuals as the tabular data, but as a chart. Here we've got this big spike here in September 13th. We've got about a million users. So something really happened on September 13th, 2023. I'd have to go look it up, but sounds like an important date for Ethereum. Other things that you can also look is, let's say, you can go scan through all the logs and get the top contracts. So say, count me all of the contract addresses from the logs after 2024. So everything that has to do with after 2024, and we're going to limit it by the top 50 contracts. So here we have, this contract has 142 million interactions, 49 million, 26 million. So then what you can do is you can kind of dive into those contracts to see what are they. Most of them are token contracts or a swap contract, something that goes through a lot of transactions. I think this one is probably the Tether contract, but I have to confirm that. And finally, we have, let's say, doing an ERC20 token transfer and summed up by the daily aggregation. So what we're trying to do is we want to see from the traces, only find me the signatures that match transfer and the transfer from, and count the events per day. So now we're just doing a substring from the input of the traces, and we're matching the signatures of the transfer and transfer from, grouping by date. Now we're getting this repeatable pattern of organized data per date, and then we have a count, and we can visualize that with the same chart. And now we have about 1 million or so ERC20 tokens per day on Ethereum what is this? The 2024. So about 1 million transfers per day. What's really nice is if you have multiple blockchains, you can kind of do this analysis on multiple different EVM chains and then get different results. So it's pretty exciting to be able to do big data analysis on these blockchains. You can have different variety of blockchains. You can do all sorts of things. I mean, the sky's the limit with the type of queries you can do, analysis, macro analysis, micro analysis that you can do. So that is the demo from Snowflake. Let me go back to the slides. And what are our future plans? So right now, what we did at the demo is we did a demo for Ethereum. So we have all of Ethereum hosted on Snowflake and on our S3 bucket. What we're trying to do currently and actively is add additional EVM chains. So we're going to be adding Base, Arbitrum, BSC, Polygon, support for beacon chains as well. So that way we can do validation on the data, do validation and host also blobs. We can also support non-EVM chains such as Solana and Bitcoin. And currently right now, our refresh rate is about 24 hours. We would probably, if we can possibly, reduce that time frame so you have a bit more of a real-time analytics, but still chunks, maybe 10 minutes or per hour. So that is it for us. Thank you for giving me the time to kind of make this demo, and happy to share with everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Denis. I think it's super important that builders in the graph ecosystem know what core dev teams are up to. And I know y'all are in the forums and you have your own channels, but I'm always a big fan of cross-team and any more external communication to the builders out there. I think that's a good thing. So just want to appreciate what you're doing, and also taking the time out today to share with the builders out there. See, there's someone chatting right now in the chat. You might have a question, but until then, what's something that you personally are the most bullish for in what you guys are working on? What's something that you get out of bed in the morning, you're like, okay, this is what I'm excited to work on?
Yeah. So one of the things that's really exciting with, let's say, hosting multiple data on multiple different blockchains is being able to kind of analyze trades across blockchains. So one of the big things is essentially cross-chain arbitrage, and be able to kind of see, are there opportunities, trading opportunities between blockchains happening in real time, and how quick are these executions are happening?
Right.
So what I'm really, the first thing I'm doing as soon as we have multiple blockchains is analyzing the, how fast do these trades get closed, like the arbitrage opportunity that would cross-chain. I think that's what fascinates me, is the sort of the high frequency trading and how liquidity moves from between blockchains and how quickly it moves, and the price spreads get smaller and smaller as you have people that are moving funds around and changing prices.
That's
because
cool.
Crypto moves a lot. You have these massive price swings, and
Huge
people
swings,
need,
yeah.
and arbitrage and traders have to go and fix these prices, right? Because if Bitcoin goes up, that impacts the price of these pairs. And it's very fascinating to see the DEX market move. And that's why there's a lot of transactions on some of these blockchains, is just tons and tons of trading happening between pairs and between DEXs. And you can see that in the data. It's really fascinating.
That sounds like a cool feature to look at. I'm imagining the dashboard that you're going to be looking at in the next X amount of months. I think that's going to be a fun dashboard to look at. As far as where the builders are concerned, where you're talking right now on Graph Builders office hours, so we've got subgraph and substream developers out there. Is there anything that you would like to say to them specifically, and kind of like priming their mind for what you are working on, and maybe a different way to think about things that they could be thinking about in the future?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, like, the architecture of this sort of data pipeline uses substream. And the goal is that any substream can be converted into a data set. So for example, if you had a Uniswap v3, you could also export that into a data set, host it on S3, expose it to Snowflake, and then people can start doing queries around it. So what we're maybe to the builders, we're going to try to go and find all the best substreams that are being built and host those data platforms, and hopefully get some more exposure on the work that builders are doing. So yeah, so I think it's bringing substreams to the mass, and I think we think that Snowflake is kind of that gateway between user queries and the builders being able to build, let's say, substream powered data sets, host it on the platform, and then let users query those data sets. So we're going to see a lot more adoption on the usage for these substream built data sets.
Awesome. Well, in the coming, I would say, quarter or two, my goal is to have core devs hopping on here every so often, just to give Graph Builders an update. Would you be able maybe to come here and again, maybe 6 to 9 months, I'd say, just to check in with everybody?
Sure.
Awesome.
We'll put it in the calendar.
I would love to see you again, see how the progress has been, and continuously give updates to the builders in the ecosystems. With final thoughts, Denis, anything else you want to say to the builders before we sign off? Or is there anything that, are you open to them reaching out to you? Or is there someone that you'd prefer builders to reach out to you through? Do you have a contact? Maybe, what would you prefer if anyone wants to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find us. We have a Discord, Pinax, but you can also find us on the Graph Discord, and we have a Twitter, Pinax, at Pinax Network. So there's lots of different ways that you can reach us, but you can find us on Discord or Twitter, or find some of our team members out in the socials.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Denis, thank you so much for your time. I wish you the very best in building for this next few months. And everyone in the audience, thank you so much for joining. This has been the November 21st episode of Graph Builders Office Hours. Have a good rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.